Happy Thursday stream, everybody. Don't usually stream on Thursdays, but I had a chance to have on a really special guest. You guys know Larry Kruger, formerly of KNBR, now of 95.7 The Game, and he has his new own YouTube channel, the Krug Show podcast. It's been a while. Last time I spoke to you, you weren't at 95.7 The Game, so I'm glad that you're back doing your thing, plus the YouTube channel. I'm glad to see you're kind of doubling down and back at it. How you been?
Good. Yeah, I've been doing good. Was down in Santa Clara today covering the 49ers. Got an extended interview with Aaron Banks,
Awesome.
Dre Greenlaw, Brandon Ayuk. So some good stuff today.
That's awesome. Did you had access back when you worked for KNBR, right? In the locker room?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in that I was obviously could go anytime I wanted. No, in that there was always a show that was on during the open locker time. So you really, I really never really went down there. We went down occasionally to see practice and training camp and that kind of stuff. But we during the season, we pretty much just covered it from San Francisco.
Yeah, I think I remember you more like post game. Sometimes you'd have a little bit of interaction.
Oh yeah, I mean, I went to every game, and I still do.
That's awesome. One of these days, I'll make the trip out west and go, unless they come play Buffalo, because I'm in Rochester. So, but it's a big trip. I'd have to. I thought about going with my brother because my brother's a Dolphins fan, and it just work's been kind of up in the air with this whole knee thing, and maybe next year. Well, it's going to happen eventually. So, but man, what a week with the 49ers, everything that's happened. I guess I just wanted to do a little quick recap from last week, not necessarily of the game, but everything that transpired with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. Were you in shock that we lost another quarterback this season in the manner that it happened? And were you shocked that Brock Purdy was able to come in and be, pretty effective?
Well, I mean, I would like to say I was shocked, but I mean, football, injury is a big part of it. Jimmy tried to extend a play, probably was not wise, and he paid the price. And I definitely was not shocked that Brock came in and played well. I expected him to play well. I said it. I'm on record as saying it. Thought he was far and away the most accurate quarterback in camp this summer, and he looked impressive in minicamp. He carried it on into training camp, and then carried it on after training camp into the preseason. So to me, I guess once I saw him do it in the preseason, I thought, okay, there's no doubt this guy can do the job. I think for a lot of people, that was their first glimpse of him at all. And they just saw a third string quarterback who was kind of undersized. I actually wagered a 49er beat writer dollar that because he was convinced that Sudfeld was going to be on the team because they had guaranteed Sudfeld $3 million. And I just kind of knew that there was a very good chance that Purdy was, brought in to make the team because they used a draft pick on him. They didn't have to. They could have signed him as an undrafted free agent, but they obviously liked him. And they used that draft pick on him. So to me, that meant that they had serious interest. And then I saw nothing in the minicamp that would make me think that he was going to be anything but really, really good this summer. And he was. So it's not a surprise to me that he's playing well.
If you could give even someone like me who didn't watch him in college and maybe people who aren't as savvy, you were a former scout at one point. If you had to give him kind of a grade or a player similar, a lot of people say Christian Ponder. Some people say he's actually a lot like Garoppolo in some sense. With your scout hat on, if you looked at what was your opinion of him coming out in the draft? Did you study up on him at all? And was he drafted exactly kind of where he should be, or do you think that? What's your overall just take on the thing?
Well, I mean, he definitely was underdrafted, and it's because the NFL has a strict adherence to certain parameters. They get they have physical parameters that they're looking for every position. And if you don't fit those physical parameters, you're marked down. And, their physical parameters for quarterback is they want the guy to be 6'2" to 6'5", 6'6", let's say. And they want him to, be 220 pounds or more. And they want him to have a certain amount of stature. And if you don't have that, you're viewed as, kind of a secondary type player. And when I say strict adherence to it, I mean, we're talking about, Aaron Rodgers might be the best quarterback in the game, and he's 6'2" and change. Well, 225 pounds. Brock Purdy is 6'1" and change, 225 pounds. But man, I mean, and was highly productive at Iowa State, had 32 school records, was like 5th in the nation in completion percentage his final year there, completing 73%. He put Iowa State on the map. They won a lot of big games. And still, just because he didn't have super broad shoulders, doesn't, isn't 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". He's under the height limit. He just got marked down. Probably should have been a 4th-round pick, maybe a 5th-round pick. For whatever reason, he fell all the way to the 7th round. The 49ers obviously felt like they got a steal. All I'll say is this. I mean, what you're looking for in a quarterback are, one, you're not looking for a projection. You shouldn't have to study a quarterback to know if he's a good quarterback. He should have won a ton of games. And so that's a big part of it. I don't think there is such a thing as a great quarterback who just didn't win any games. You have to win. And so that means you have to be a smart and tough and accurate and poised. And, I mean, and he's got all those traits. You got to be incredibly smart. And he's got a command in the huddle. He's a tough guy. He's a competitive guy. Comes from an athletic family. He was a all-time, Arizona athlete. I mean, he was an extraordinary high school football player. Got a scholarship to Alabama. Played at Iowa State. Played all 4 years, and he's got a well above 500 record. And I think you've seen that he processes what he sees at the line of scrimmage quickly. The ball comes out on time. His footwork in the short game is, you have to have great footwork to succeed in the short game, and he does. And then he also has great red zone ability because he's very accurate. So he'll attempt passes that some quarterbacks won't even attempt. He's smart, so he takes a full account of the defenders and where they are on the field. He's not a perfect quarterback. He's kind of too tough for his own good at times. He'll take some hits that he probably shouldn't take. And that will be his undoing in the NFL if he allows the defenders to take big hits on him, because he just don't come back from that. But right now, he's processing quickly. The ball's coming out on time. He's spreading it around to his receivers. He's showing leadership. And I expect him to continue to play well. I really expect that he'll wind up beating Tom Brady. I think the 49ers are the better team. I think they'll wind up beating Tampa Bay on Sunday. And Purdy will have beaten Tom Brady in his first NFL start, and then people will really start to talk about him. But yeah, he was a great find by the 49er personnel staff. There's no question about that.
I can't say underwhelmed, but I noticed he doesn't have the biggest arm. And I guess my question to you, and arm strength isn't always huge to me because, Montana didn't have a huge arm. Drew Brees didn't really have a huge arm, guys like that. I guess, is his arm strength functional enough that he could succeed in the NFL?
I think so. I mean, he's got good zip on his passes. He kind of understands the need that he has to step into his throws. So his footwork's really good, and he steps into his throws. I've seen guys with bigger arms for sure, but I think he's got requisite arm strength. I do think defenses will force him as time goes on to throw it outside the numbers and down the field a little bit more. but most of the throws in the NFL are in the short and intermediate area,
Yep.
and he can make all of those throws. And he, the thing about it that I like is that he lets it rip inside of tight windows. So he doesn't hold back. I mean, he's got a great feel, and he sees it, and he'll throw some guys open. He makes anticipatory throws, but man, when he sees it, he'll let it rip in tight windows, and hopefully he's got this uncanny ability right now. He hasn't turned the ball over. There's a chance that that he'll start to turn it over a little bit. They'll start to break on some of those inside throws, but to date, he's taking care of the football. So I think that if you're Kyle Shanahan, you got to be thrilled. In a lot of ways, he's exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants. Kyle wants somebody who's going to be able to process things at the line of scrimmage, get them out of bad plays into good plays, and take care of the football and lead the team and distribute the ball in the passing game to a bevy of weapons through a dizzying number of formations and personnel groups. And he can do it all. He can process what he sees. I mean, you saw the Dolphins; they came at him with 5 and 6 man rushes, and he burned them more than once. So, I think he's going to develop a reputation as a guy that you don't want to blitz. But I expect more blitz this weekend from Tampa and Todd Bowles.
It's funny. Brandon Ayuk is not a vocal guy. He seems super uncomfortable talking to the media, or just talking in general to people.
Yeah,
he is singing the praises of him like I've never seen it. I mean, I've never seen him talk like this. He talked about how when he was in the huddle and he told, or it might have been after the game, he said, like, I missed some throws, this, that, and the other. And he told them, like, I'm going to get better and I'm going to feed you. And I was just like, this is a third string quarterback, pretty much like talking to one of his best playmakers. And from what Ayuk sounded like when they kind of gave the question of, hey, should we bring in Baker Mayfield? He was all on he said he's on the Brock Purdy train. And I from someone who doesn't want to get overly hyped because of, maybe the comparisons to say, Mullins and stuff like that. I want to see a little bit more personally as a fan. I trust your take on things and your, like I said, your scouting kind of put cap on. But as a fan, I want to see. I mean, like, I want to see him play a little bit more, I guess, before I go a little crazy and buy one of those shirts, the BCB shirts. I want to wait a little bit. But I thought it was interesting with Ayuk how you never hear him talk. He looks so uncomfortable in front of the media. And yet he was on that one podcast with those two former players. I forgot who they are. And I've never seen him talk like that. I mean,
it's funny. I just talked to Ayuk yesterday, and he had a lot of great things to say about Brock. I mean, these guys have a lot of confidence in Brock. Brock's got a presence in the huddle. He'll yell at his receivers. He'll tell guys when they screwed up. I mean, he's in control out there. He's played a lot of football. He's made 47 career starts.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of football. It's a lot more. These people comparing him to Trey Lance. Trey Lance has played nothing. Trey Lance hasn't even played half that many games. So this guy's just a totally different animal. I mean, this guy's a seasoned veteran, and he's played a lot of balls. So he's seen it all. For a young guy, and he's got a lot of poise. He's got a lot of moxie. He's got a lot of toughness, and he's in control out there. I mean, I talked to Aaron Banks today. He talked about how he'll yell at receivers, keep running that effing route, and keep, just basically he's in total command. So
that's awesome.
He's a nice guy. He's quiet. He's humble, but he's in control.
That's awesome. I feel like if I played quarterback, I would be a little bit of a spaz too. So that's cool to hear because you don't see Jimmy as that type of guy. I don't see him as a vocal leader. I think people just respect him, for being tough and putting up with a lot of like outside pressure and talk. But that's I had no idea. He doesn't come across like that on the television screen. He has almost like a boyish charm to him. but apparently I'm only seeing what's on the surface. Um, Speaking of Purdy and now him being in control of things, um, who benefits the most in the passing game? Is it a plethora of? Is it all of them? That the fact that he might spread it around evenly, or do you see anybody in particular? Uh, benefiting from him being the quarterback at all? Like just off the top of your head?
Well, I think his accuracy helps the receivers. The 49ers, I mean, there's a lot of people that only watch 49er football, and they don't watch a lot of football outside of 49er football. But the 49ers have not they haven't had a quarterback who's hit a receiver in stride down the field in a long time. I mean, it's been a long time since the 49ers really had a quarterback who would hit guys in stride down the field. And I think you're going to see that from Purdy. He's got that level of accuracy. You're going to see also, you say, who's going to benefit the most? They all are, because it's the run after the catch. The key factor in run after the catch is accuracy. If you can get a guy a pass in the screen pass, if you can get it out to him quicker, he's got a much better chance to make a guy miss and make a big play and pile up run after the catch yards. Same thing with the receiver. So a lot of times that run after the catch, I mean, like Joe Montana produced a ton of run after the catch because he was so incredible at hitting his receivers in stride down the field. And in stride even on some of the short stuff, on the slants. But the Niner quarterbacks have been more spotty with their accuracy in recent years. And I just don't think that we've seen a Niner quarterback quite this accurate. And I think you're going to see in the next month or so, Purdy's really good at getting the ball out and putting it on your hands and giving you, doing it, having the proper footwork to get it out to you quickly, and I think you're going to see run after the catch yardage start to pile up.
You think they put him on the move, have him on the move a little bit just because of his lack of size, giving him some, easier throws, or just using his own mobility in general to kind of, I don't know, give something else to the defense to watch for? Because he seems very comfortable scrambling and throwing, which is something Jimmy looks insanely awkward doing. He just doesn't look right.
I definitely think Brock throws well going to his right. I think they'll utilize that skill. Some guys, that ball sails. He did throw one in this game to Debo that sailed on him. That he was running to his right and he just kind of airmailed it. But normally he throws that ball with tremendous accuracy, and I've seen him hit guys in stride, and I expect they'll use him on dash left, dash right, boot left, boot right. Try to move him around, move the pocket a little bit, just to if nothing else, give Todd Bowles and that really talented back seven that the Bucs have a bunch of different looks.
Yeah, the Bucs are going to be a challenge for sure against Purdy. So we might get an honest kind of view on exactly what he really is. They did blitz the hell out of him last week too. Oh my God. See, my brother's a Dolphins fan, so we're both watching the game, but in different rooms.
Right.
And I try to keep my ears plugged as much as possible because his TV's about, I don't know, second and a half ahead. So anytime there was a big play happening, I would put my hand over my ears because I didn't want to get it spoiled. The Niners got a pick or whatever. I heard my brother flipping out when Jimmy Ward got the interception and stuff. So it was interesting. And me and him, I don't want to really talk too much about last week's game, but the one thing I noticed about that game is, the 49ers were I would think that the Dolphins kind of started out where they were kind of self-destructing themselves when inaccuracy and with the Tua and stuff. And I felt by the end of the game, I think the Niners defense kind of took over. I thought the Niners defense early on was getting a little bit, I can't say exposed, but they got let off the hook quite a bit. So later on in the game, I thought the Niners defense kind of took over, and then that wasn't as much the case. But yeah, that was an interesting game last week. seeing Jimmy go down, I tweeted on Twitter, it's over. I had no idea about Brock. And I'm still, like I said, I'm a fan that has to wait and see. But I was pretty, as much as I've been hard on Jimmy, when he went down last week, I was like, man, are you fucking kidding me, man? Like, really? We have all these players on both sides of the ball, and we lost another quarterback. But I'm holding out hope that this kid, because according to media and coaches and other players, everybody's singing his praises. So I guess I need to get on board too.
Well, there's a point where you run out of quarterbacks for sure, but
yeah,
I personally think they can win with Brock Purdy. I think by the time Garoppolo is ready to come back, there's going to be a pretty good debate of who they'd be better off with. So I'm expecting the next 4 or 5 games to be impressive from Brock Purdy, because I think he's an impressive player. I mean, he plays with rhythm. The ball comes out on time. He's accurate. He moves the team. He plays well in the red zone. He's a faster guy than you think. He's a tougher guy than you think. He's a more accurate guy than you think. He's a gutsier guy than you think. I mean, he really is. He's one of those guys that you don't necessarily see him coming, but you look up and you say, wow, the guy played incredibly efficient football. So I do expect him to play well, and it'll be interesting to see how far they can ride it. Because he's played a lot of football. He does certain things better. I mean, way better than Trey Lance and significantly better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's probably more accurate than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's got better footwork in the short game. He doesn't have quite the arm strength that Jimmy has. Doesn't have quite, Jimmy's a little bit bigger, a little bit more durable to big time hits. You would think, but this guy's got I was in the room today, and they're on their third string quarterback, and most teams that are on their third string quarterback have zero chance to win the Super Bowl, and yet to a man, every guy in that locker room believes the 49ers have not just a chance, but a great chance to win the Super Bowl. So it kind of speaks to how they view Brock and, how they view their season, despite the fact they've lost their 2 starting quarterbacks.
It's weird. I don't know how much teams talk to the media before the media talks about them, say on like national broadcast, because you're getting even a lot of that from national broadcast that think that the Niners still have a really good chance with him at quarterback. Like, I don't know if I was watching who it was. I don't know if it was ESPN. There's just so many shows. I lose track of what network they're on, but a lot of them have, unless they're just a Niner hater and they just want to bash, a lot of them have a similar outlook that you do. And that a lot of media people seem to have this like vibe coming from either the team itself, whether it's players or a front office, because, I don't know how much, I don't know if how much does the front office or people within the organization ever talk to networks or anything, kind of like letting them know like about a certain player, or is it just, you think, based on their own observation?
Oh no, I'm sure they get everybody from the players, the coaches, the executives get asked about the players, and I'm sure they're pretty forthright, and they're not trying to boost them up as much as just be honest. And so I personally think that absolutely there's a lot of people that talk in this league, and I'm sure the Niners have talked up this player, and then there's a lot of people that just know football, and when they see the ball come out on time and they see it once or twice, they're like, yeah, it's, that's pretty interesting. When the guy does it a bunch and then starts doing it off the bench in a regular season game in December when he hasn't played all year, I think there's more people that look at that and say, hey, maybe this guy can play. And then he had a whole track record at Iowa State. So, and then you go back and you look at his stuff and you say, hey, you know what? This guy was incredibly accurate in college. This guy set 32 school records. This guy might be able to play a little bit. He's got a little moxie. He's got a little toughness. So there's just no question. I mean, they got to be thrilled with what they have. And the guys in the room believe in him. Talk to Greenlaw. He's like, man, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks. I've studied a lot of quarterbacks. This guy's got the it factor. This guy, he knows how to exploit a defense. Um, we saw it really from the very first time he played in a Niner uniform in the preseason when, he was like taking the play clock down to like 2 in that first preseason game. It was like, wow, this guy's already understands how to manage the clock. How many
I noticed
rookie
he pays
quarterbacks do
attention to the
that in the
clock too,
preseason?
which is something that some Niner quarterbacks don't do well. He pays attention to the clock. The fact that he had the balls to call timeout and take that decision away from Kyle, I thought was pretty interesting. You don't see that too much.
No question. How about the throw that he made in the end zone to McCaffrey? It was
That was nice.
incomplete, but I mean, it was the kind of throw that you only make if you have total confidence in your accuracy and what you can do with the football, and that gives your offense confidence. I personally think this offense is going to score more touchdowns in the red zone. They're going to have a fast finish. There's a chance they run the table, and Purdy's going to be there for all of it, and Garoppolo's going to come back in the divisional round possibly, and people are going to say, well, should they go with Garoppolo? They've run the table, and Shanahan's going to have to make a very difficult decision at that point.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this because there's a lot of moving parts. You got the whole Trey Lance dynamic, where people asking if he should come back. Then you have the dynamic of the people that asked, should Jimmy Garoppolo come back? And then, of course, you had the talk before he signed with the Rams, if he would have been a smart move as a backup. First, I'll ask you about Baker. If the Niners would have made a move on him as strictly a backup or insurance, would you have been okay with it? Or do you just have absolutely no place in your mind for a guy of his, I don't know, his attitude, kind of the drama that has surrounded him?
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry. I mean, I think, a big part of being a quarterback is leadership, and nobody will follow you. I mean, you can lead all you want, but if guys don't follow you, you're not much of a leader. Right. And I just think that he's hurt his leadership. He's done a lot of commercials. He's talked a lot. I mean, on one hand, he's played hurt a lot, so I think he's kind of shown that he's a tough guy. But he's also talked a lot, and the way he reacted to the Browns going after Deshaun Watson, compared to the way Jimmy reacted when the 49ers were going to go with Trey Lance, I mean, it was night and day. I mean, Jimmy was patient and worked through his agent. This guy publicly demanded a trade immediately. So I think Baker Mayfield lacks some maturity. I think Kyle Shanahan likes his skill set. I think he's said as much. I think there's a lot of people around the NFL that like his skill set. But once again, quarterback position is a leadership position, and it's hard to lead a group of men if they won't follow you. Yep. And that's the problem I think Baker is running into. And there's probably a couple other guys, who are going to struggle with that as well around the league, but he's definitely one of them.
What's your take on whether the Niners should? I mean, the talk is that Jimmy could be ready, but if you listen to Kyle, it doesn't seem likely. Same thing with Trey Lance. Would you bring either of them back?
I would definitely not bring Trey Lance back. Unless I lost Purdy and Garoppolo wasn't ready to come back, because I think Lance is really raw, and they're playing at a really high level right now, and the games mean a ton. So he's so raw, and they ran him. I mean, if we want to give Kyle Shanahan the benefit of the doubt, which I think we probably should, since he knows the players and he's got a vested interest in winning games, the way he utilized Trey Lance was kind of proof that he thinks that Trey is incredibly raw. And then just watching Trey, and then obviously knowing his story, it's easy to see why he's incredibly raw. He hasn't played a whole lot. He was a big gamble at the top of the draft in height, weight, speed, and intelligence. And if you're a certain height, certain weight, certain speed, and you have certain intelligence level that he has, that eventually you're going to be good. But he's still a prospect, and there's tons of learning to come, and it's very much a nuanced position. And so, no, I would not bring him back. Garoppolo, on the other hand, I would bring back. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And, I don't know that I would play him because, like, if they do run the table like I expect them to, I think I'm staying with Purdy in the playoff run unless he somehow has some issue. And then I'll go to Garoppolo if I have to behind Purdy. But if Purdy doesn't run the table and let's say just does okay, then maybe you go back to Jimmy when Jimmy's ready. But I really do expect Purdy to play well, and I don't expect the Niners to go back to Jimmy this year.
I just hope the offensive line can protect him. These quarterbacks have taken a lot of hits this year, whether it's on their own doing or blown assignments. The hit that Jimmy took on that where he got hurt, that was actually I think Trent Williams that missed that particular block, but Jimmy did hold on to the ball too long. They take a lot of unnecessary hits. When I saw Purdy scrambling or going for that first down, I was just like, geez, we don't need to do that. Give it to a running back, which actually transitions me into my next thoughts. And the chat was kind of hitting on the same thing. How do you? We have Christian McCaffrey, and he was the big trading. We traded for him, and he was the big piece that maybe Kyle was missing. But with Elijah Mitchell once again out of the picture, would you like to see a little bit more of Mason get more involved and kind of leaned on a little bit? Because I feel like sometimes it's a little herky jerky with the way they're being used. There's no rhyme or reason. It feels like sometimes you would rather have Mason run up the middle and use Christian McCaffrey more in the pass game. What's your take on if the Niners should evolve that running game, change it, or do you like it the way that it is?
I was just talking to Mason today. Actually, it's funny. Yeah, he was riding around. He's got one of those cool new scooters that he bought, and we were joking about how fast he can get the thing, and should he wear his helmet when he's got it on, and when he's riding around on the scooter. But no, he's a great kid, man. He really is. He shared time at Georgia Tech with that kid Gibbs, who transferred to Bama, who might be the best running back in the nation. And Jordan Mason he's a beast. He's 235, 240 pounds. He runs hard. I really like Jordan. Wow. I would feed more Jordan Mason, especially with the lead, especially in the second half. He's just a bull. I mean, as I said, he's about 235 and he's pretty quick and he runs hard and he runs upright. So he's going to take some hits. As long as he holds onto the football, he's going to make a major impact. I mean, I would definitely feed him the ball a lot more than they have.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see it too. Sometimes I wonder why Christian McCaffrey is in so much. And I understand Kyle is one of those people where he trusts certain players just because of that, me being a veteran, or he's had them on the team a long time and he just trusts going to him over, say, a younger player. But Kyle also tends to wear guys down and overuse them because he's all about whoever gives him the best chance, and I get that too. But yeah, I would love to see Mason get more involved in this offense. I hate to say this because he has the same number, but he does give me a little bit of Marshawn vibes with just that that initial contact where people bounce off of him. It's kind of nice. Kind of sucks though because all our running backs seem to get hurt, so I'd rather have him juke guys and have him miss. But yeah, I don't know. You get that vibe too?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, totally. He runs upright. Reminds me a little bit of Eddie George, because he runs upright, but I mean, he's powerful and he's young and he's healthy. Yeah, he's good. He's a really good player. I think that I would like to see him used. I mean, to me, I mean, I was joking in the press box Sunday watching some of these McCaffrey runs up the middle. It's like, Kyle, don't, stop taking your sports car off-roading. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like the same, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, I feel like, Mason is the big back, who's like, the guy that you'd want to go, mudding with, or, off the trail type thing. Cause he's just a big, tough, physical runner. And then you got McCaffrey, who's so valuable, but why risk injuring him by running him between the tackles when you have a 240-pound bull of a rookie running back? So, I mean, run your bull of a rookie running back between the tackles and use McCaffrey more as a receiver and outside the tackle box and preserve his health.
I didn't realize he was that big as a running back. It's hard to tell from watching on television. He does look thick though, but I didn't know he was, in the 235, 240 range. That's
Oh yeah, he's a big kid. I mean, this is a big, physical, hard charging back who, man, I mean, if he ran with just even a little bit more body lean, he would just be unstoppable in short yardage.
like to see him. Hopefully they use him more in this upcoming game against Tampa. What's
Yeah,
are you
and they may because it may rain.
Oh, that's interesting. Did not know that. I thought it was supposed to rain this past week, and then it never
It's
really
going to
did.
rain tomorrow, and they're saying probably Saturday, and then we'll see about Sunday.
Nice sloppy game where we could beat up Tom a little bit. What's your kind of your what's the word I'm looking for? What's your honest take on the offensive line, how they played this year? I feel like they've been a little bit hot and cold. I feel like some games they've played better than others. Uh, I thought that they've allowed a lot of hits to the quarterback lately. What's kind of your, overall assessment? I know some guys have played, like Aaron Banks has played really well. Of course, Trent Williams, McGlinchey. To me, a lot of people say that a lot of fans bag on him, and he's actually a lot better than we think. I don't believe that. What's your overall kind of assessment?
I mean, it's interesting. It's like overall, I think it's an improving group that seems to be making fewer mistakes as the season goes on. And I like what I've seen out of Banks. I like what I've seen out of Burford. Brendel has been kind of a pleasant surprise for the most part. But I think the guard play and the center play have been, you know, have been good, but the tackle play, which was supposed to be good, has been less than stellar. I think McGlinchey struggled. Trent Williams has struggled. McGlinchey, I think, is a little beat up. Trent Williams has lost a step. I think their tackle play has been a little disappointing, and I would say their guard and interior play has been kind of a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I kind of got that in the early part of the season. I felt like the people that we were supposed to be worrying about were actually the ones that were kind of performing well. And of course, I have noticed Trent Williams not be quite his normal dominant self in pass protection. They both him and McGlinchey. I mean, the Niners are such a physical team that I feel like sometimes they take it. It takes more out of their own players than the opposition. But just the way that everything is so clogged up, and the way they run the ball. Sometimes I'm just like, can we do something with a little space here to stop getting everybody have the ability to have their legs rolled up or something happen that's going to hurt somebody? I've felt that both tackles this year have both struggled. Not struggled, but McGlinchey, to me, I've never been sold on the fact that they drafted him as high as they did. And people are like, oh, here's a bunch of film. You guys are wrong. But it's when he screws up or when he has a bad play that sometimes is more than, if you go look at his overall snaps. Yeah, of course maybe he played well on 60 of 65, but those 5 were like huge problems or something that happened that changed the game. So yeah, I've been overall kind of uneven with the offensive line this year myself.
Yeah, it's been a little disappointing for sure. I mean, McGlinchey, I don't think is physically right. I think he's just gutting it out because he's a free agent at the end of the year, and he wants everybody to know that he's willing to play hurt. But I think he is playing hurt.
Do you think Lynch is talking him up right now because he wants to put out a market for him, or do you think Lynch is legitimately thinking about bringing him back? I saw I saw Grant Cohn saying, "Watch them re-sign him," and I'm like, "No, I don't want that." What do you think?
I think they won't re-sign him. I think they'll wind up moving on from him, and I think they'll invest in that position in the draft.
Okay. Nobody within the building you think that they could kick over to there, or do you think that's mainly a
Well,
draft pick?
no, I didn't say that. I mean, there's definitely Jalen Moore.
Okay.
There's definitely the Zakel. who's got a lot of potential. They may even have a couple other guys they're thinking of, but I know that Burford played right tackle at UTSA, so they could always move Burford out to tackle and go for a guard if they felt like he was quick enough to handle the speed rushers. I do think though that McGlinchey, tackles who are proven in the NFL get, they get paid. They get paid a lot in free agency, so I expect him to probably get an offer that surpasses what the Niners want to pay him, and I think he'll leave.
I figure we switch to the other side of the ball. We've talked a lot about the offense. As far as the defense, a lot of people have been talking, at least early on, that they were so elite. They're really banging on the table about it. And then the Kansas City game happened. I know a lot of guys were coming back from injury, and there was a lot of things going on. But what has been, I hate, when people you overuse the word like elite or one of the best ever. I think this 49er defense is good, but I don't think they're necessarily like, lock people up all across the board. I think they have some deficiencies, especially in the pass cover game. What has been your overall kind of take? Are you more impressed than I am, or are you kind of more evened out? What's your opinion on the defense?
Well, I mean, they've looked really good at times, but I mean, I think there's some. Let's not talk about the 85 Bears or the 86 Giants or the 75 Steelers or the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Bucks. This defense is not in that category.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if they were totally healthy and Javon Kinlaw had emerged as this one-man all-pro wrecking crew that he had the potential to be, and Eric Armstead was healthy, then and Emmanuel Mosley was not out for the year, then maybe, and Jason Verrett came back and was playing at a high level. But, Verrett's out for the year. Mosley's out for the year. Kinlaw's probably out for the year. They're leaning on, they're not good in the A gaps on short yardage. They get pushed around a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, they still have incredible impact, speed, and talent at linebacker. I think it's the best linebacking core. I think they're getting really underrated play from their safety tandem. I think Jimmy Ward and Hufanga are special. And then I think they've got pretty good corner depth with Giamador Lenore and Samuel Womack. I think those two guys can really play. So, there's some nice things for sure. I mean, the cupboard is not bare, but, defensively you've got, Ridgeway. Now he's got the torn pec, or at least some kind of an injured pec. You've got Givens, who's nice, but, he's not super strong against the run. I think this team misses DJ Jones, to be honest.
Yes. I thought, I've heard at different times that, they drafted Kalia Davis to kind of replace DJ Jones. He has
Kalia Davis is going to be a player, by the way. It's just not going to be this year.
Yeah, I saw some of the players that they're talking about, or somebody put this up because, the Niners don't have a pick till the third round, and then they listed all these players, and two that stood out to me. One was McCrary Ball, which a lot of people were high on as a linebacker.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
And you were talking about that when I talked to you about it during and close to the draft. You were very big on McCrary Ball. Because I don't think they're going to keep Azeez Al-Shire. They can't. They just can't keep everybody. And it's weird. Even me as a fan, I want like instant dividends, but the 49ers have a way of drafting for now and for the future at the same time. It's kind of weird. I don't know how they do it. And I give a lot of that to not necessarily John Lynch, but to I know who I'm talking about in the front office. It's not John Lynch.
Adam Peters.
Yes. I think he's an amazing talent evaluator. Whoever their scouts are, whatever they do past the third round is usually golden. Seems like in the early rounds when it's more of like a, you really got to nail it, and it's a kind of like a, a sure thing kind of pick. They seem to miss quite considerably at least on some players. But I saw that they have, I don't know how many picks they have this year. They have some thirds and some fifths, and I'm like, oh, that's right up their alley. They can make some
9 picks this year.
9 picks. Yep. yeah, defensive line is something that, a lot of people were talking about during the preseason, and then Kinlaw hasn't played pretty much all year. Question about Kinlaw is, do you see a future with him on this team? Do you think they're going to give him one more run next year, and then make a decision after that, or do you think that they're already kind of looking forward to moving on from eventually when it's time?
So hard to say, because I don't think if you can't really trade him right now, because
Right.
he hasn't done anything. I don't. It doesn't last forever. They may give him one more try because of his contract status. I don't know his exact contract status, but if his contract's up, I think they'll move on. If his contract's not up, I don't think they'll move on. I think they'll try one more year. But he's at this point. He had a bad knee coming into the league, and he plays upright, and he's got long levers, and he exposes his legs to hits. And then after he plays a game or two, he's got too much knee pain. So, I don't have tons of hope for him. Maybe they can, find somebody else who was drafted in a similar position in the same draft and flip him for Kinlaw. I've seen that done sometimes with guys that don't fit in a certain spot. But, I know they like his talent, but it's all about, you can't make the club in the tub.
Exactly. No, I think with him, that one thing I've always noticed too is, forgot what I was going to say, but I know. Okay, for instance, there was all this stuff that happened in the off season. I won't mention names, but there was all that kind of media versus Kinlaw and stuff, and there was kind of two sides to that. And I actually sided a lot with the media side of it, particularly just because he hasn't been on the field. So like, until you show that you can stay healthy, if somebody's job is to write about, whether you can stay healthy or not, and that's their opinion. And now we're kind of seeing that it has rung true. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that have knee injuries, that have knee tendonitis, and they talk about how, it's something that they always are going to deal with. And the fact that he has it at such a young age, and the Niners made that decision to draft him based on with all the information that they got, and they still drafted him. And to me, if you're going to move on from somebody, the only thing you really have to look at is the fact that he was drafted in the top 15 and hasn't shown the ability, one, to stay healthy, and two, that he's worth that top 15 selection. I think top 15 picks are supposed to be all pros. You don't draft him there at whatever position he was drafted to be a space eater. You can draft a space eater in the middle rounds. That's, Kalia Davis was pretty much drafted to be a space eater. You draft somebody at that position or at that high in the draft to be a pass rusher. What do you think that, like, the Niners just maybe thought that they were the smartest people in the room, and they thought that they could get have magic happen, even though he had all these injuries and stuff coming out of college?
I mean, they got blinded by the fact they were looking for a replacement for Buckner, and he's who they basically decided on, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. It's just as simple as that. I don't think they're so disappointed in how he's played, when he's played, though he's not much of a pass rusher.
Right.
It's just that he can't stay on the field. He's one of these guys. It's really kind of unfortunate because he doesn't need to do a whole lot when he's out there. All he really needs to do is absorb some blockers, command that double team. His strength alone commands the double team. And all he's got to do is, just come out of his stance and be healthy, but he can't. So it's one of those things where I don't know what his situation is going to be. I don't think they'll wind up bringing him back. If you say who's coming back, I'd say it would be Elijah Mitchell and maybe Garoppolo. Interesting.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it at any point this year that I would really see him. You hope sometimes, just because you would have the defense line at kind of full strength, and you could really have that, quote unquote NASCAR package. And when you have all the people that are supposed to be there, and you have the depth and people playing at their proper positions, but I haven't seen no sign. I know the Niners like to say, "Oh yeah, he's getting close," but they've said that about countless other people over 6 years, and then those guys have had setbacks after setbacks. So I really don't really hold much. Sorry, Kyle. I love you guys. I love you and John Lynch, but I really don't believe you when you say that a guy's close. I just don't. I don't believe it.
Well, we'll see. You're talking about Kinlaw still. I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, John drafted him. I'm sure there's some pressure when you draft a guy that high. I will say this about Kalia Davis. He's not just a run plugger. He is a pass rusher. So next year when he hits the field in training camp, you'll see an interior pass rusher who's got great speed and a great motor. And I think that's going to wind up being a terrific pick.
Nice. What's your opinion and your overall kind of overview on how Diamador Lenore has played this year as an outside corner?
Love him. Got tremendous moxie. He's tough. Works at it. He's prideful. He's got nothing but better. And he's coming on. He really is. He's coming on, and he makes a lot of plays. And he's a guy that that has a lot of talent. He really does. So it's going to be, he's a guy that I think is one of the most improved players in the whole team.
Definitely. He has, they say when they don't call your name, then you're doing a good job. So he has played pretty well as of late. And then Hufanga, he had a lapse in this past game with that touchdown to Tyreek Hill, the post, where the corner was allowing the receiver to kick inside, and he was supposed to kind of take over, and he kind of went with the underneath, whatever was going on underneath. But he also makes plays and causes turnovers. What's your kind of assessment on him? Is he still kind of kind of a high risk, high reward type of player to you?
It's funny. It's like, sometimes the scouting reports are right and sometimes they're wrong, right? I mean, a guy like Brock Purdy, I'm sure the scouting reports are wrong. They probably said he was too small and this and that. And he's kind of proving right now that he's not. Well, the scouting report with Hufanga was that he was an all-conference player, but he just ran a slow 40 time. And the question was, could he hold up in coverage down the field? And now here we are, a couple years in. He's proven that he's got incredible instincts in the run game, attacks the mesh point in the cover three.
Yes, he does.
And is a major factor close to the line of scrimmage. What we've also found is that he's somewhat of a liability in pass coverage. And so that's really it. Teams are going to force him to, to play pass coverage and to play pass coverage down the field. So his natural inclination is going to be to cheat on the stuff in front of him because he's better going forward and his weakness is going backward. But unfortunately, that also means that, he could be susceptible to some big plays over his head. So it's a really, interesting situation because it's, he's, a lot of things could happen.
My brother made a comparison. We were talking about it after the game last week. Well, he was miserable because his Dolphins lost, and he compared him. And I know you're gonna be like, absolutely not. He compared him to the Diggs player from the Cowboys, the corner, where he either can jump around and do really well, or sometimes he can kind of give up a huge pass play or a touchdown. Do you kind of have that similar kind of view of him, where it's high risk, high reward, just because he kind of takes chances?
I just think that, yeah, I mean, he takes some chances. I do trust Hufanga in a big game to play better pass coverage down the field, but that's his weakness. He's incredibly adept coming up to hit, to make plays against the run. He's also fallen off a lot of tackles in the last month where he shoots the backfield and he just falls off the tackle and doesn't make the play. So he's going to have to wrap those guys in the games ahead, or it's going to be a rough one. I mean, it's going to be a bad situation if he can't.
Definitely. The Saints had an issue with closing it out last week. What do the Niners got to do to avoid that? They dedicate the ball and just eat clock, or Like I watched that game at the end, and I saw the first touchdown get scored by Tom Brady. I looked at my brother, and I was like, "Bucks are winning this game. There's no doubt." It's almost like the inevitable happens. Like, what the hell happened last week with that game, and how do the 49ers kind of avoid that kind of situation?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's never one thing, as you know, but it's just I just think more than anything against Tom Brady in this situation, they don't have Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs is out. He's the big offensive tackle. I think you got to really pressure Tom Brady, and you have to, the Niners are sending a you gotta have a coordinated rush. You have to play all kinds of games up front, cross the quarterback's face. They got to get pressure on Tom Brady. He's got to feel their D line. You can't allow him to play pitch and catch all day. You have to get him out of rhythm. And so I think they can do it because I think Wirfs is a major loss. And I like the 49er D line and defense overall to kind of win the day. But if they don't win the day and Brady's allowed to establish a rhythm, it's going to be tough because, the 49ers are going with their third string quarterback against a Hall of Fame greatest quarterback of all time in full rhythm. It's going to be difficult on paper, you would say that's major advantage Tampa. But I think the Niners are the better team. I think they'll stop Rashad White. I think the Niners will run the ball with a little bit more success than Tampa will. I think the Niners will win.
Nice. What's your overall kind of take from seeing Eric Armstead return last week? He does, like you said, he doesn't get the sacks. He doesn't show up on the stat sheets, but damn was he effective, and Bosa freaking fed because he was playing.
Yeah, I mean, Armstead's just really an effective player. He's very smart. He's got functional strength that he didn't even have when he came into the league, and he's a guy that you can run. He's a student of the game. He runs the stunt game inside to perfection. He's better against the run than you think. Yeah, I mean, getting him back was huge, absolutely huge, and does nothing but help the defense.
That's awesome. And then as far as Bosa, are you concerned with the injury stuff, the irritation of the hamstring, or do you think they're just being super cautious?
Well, I'm always nervous when a guy's got hamstrings that big because
right.
if you pull a hamstring and you've got skinny legs, but if you pull a hamstring and you've got big thick legs, it can be a season-ending type injury. So, I think I am a little concerned.
Yeah, it's like freaking guitar strands with that guy. He is just unbelievable. I've never seen a human being. He looks literally like, well, I can't say he looked like Lou Ferrigno, but he definitely has the Incredible Hulk type body. You paint him green and he could play it. So
he spent some time in the weight room.
Yeah, just a little bit. I wish I could look like that, but I'm also 20 years older. Niners next opponents, if you had to kind of give yourself, or not give yourself, give them a kind of a overall record, what do you think the Niners might go down the stretch? I think they have 5 games remaining.
I think they
right?
have a shot. I mean, I really believe they have a shot to run the table. I'd probably say they're going to lose one. I kind of think that it might be the Washington game.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought the Miami game was the game that they might drop, and I was wrong completely. It started that way, but it ended up not ending that way. But yeah, the Washington game does give me a little pause. And the the Bucks do too, just because they have Tom Brady. But
yeah, Bucks. The only thing about the Bucks is the Bucks are not as healthy. I don't think. Where Washington's really playing good ball down the stretch here.
What's your opinion on when people kind of comparing Heineke or whatever his last name is to to Brock Purdy? Do you kind of agree with that?
It's easy to see why. I think both guys have a little moxie. No question the Commanders believe in Heineke, and the 49ers have a belief in Purdy. So, yeah, I mean, I think both guys are really underrated. I think Purdy's got more talent. I think he's more accurate. I think he's just a better quarterback prospect than Heineke. But they're both been really surprisingly good.
Nice. I just saw in the chat that somehow the Raiders lost, and
yes, the Raiders
Baker brought him.
I just watched it.
I thought the Raiders maybe. I was thinking maybe they're going to be a little bit of a challenge, but if they're getting beat by the Rams in the current state of the Rams, then maybe we won't have as much of a challenge. All I know is that Green Bay was a fool for letting their top receiver go last year. They should not have paid Aaron Rodgers all that money. They made a serious error. He is unbelievable.
I mean, he has, and Devontae's been good at times for the Raiders, but the Packers sure miss him a lot.
Oh, definitely. Well, Larry, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you had probably a really long day, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on here. It's been a long time. You reached out to me right before Thanksgiving and asked about if I was streaming. I said I was, and then I asked you if I could maybe collab, and you were more than happy to do it today. So I just want to say thank you, to the chat. Sorry I didn't talk to the chat too much. When I have like Larry on or somebody, I let the guests kind of speak. So appreciate it very much. Thank you again for everyone coming through. And I will see, hopefully, you guys tomorrow. I'll keep you guys kind of in the loop because tomorrow's show is a little bit up in the air. But until next time, everyone, stay safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you later.